Hello friends, Jenkins here, bringing you the third installment of Heroes of the Week. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Our up-and-coming hero for this week is Bounty Hunter. Previously, Bounty Hunter was considered a frustratingly good hero, but fell off as the meta shifted heavily towards dual lanes and away from roaming, which is what he did. In the non-roaming meta, Bounty was buffed over and over again to try to make up for the fact that nobody was picking him, and we've essentially hit a point where he's been overbuffed and roaming is also back. People are starting to realize this. I don't even know where to begin with this hero. He can now track people while invisible, which helps a lot in terms of mana issues and not revealing his position when he uses track. Track gives you move speed and it makes you crit, plus Janata gives you bonus damage, plus phase boots are currently very overpowered on melee heroes in terms of damage and movement speed, so all of this put together basically means if Bounty Hunter tracks you, he will punch you for half your HP until you're dead, while also stealing your gold while he's hitting you. Janata, giving you 80 bonus damage, makes a level 1 Bounty Hunter extremely difficult to trade with in lane, which is convenient when you're a core role BH, which is more common nowadays, and you don't need the invis for ganking. And probably the biggest reason that Bounty Hunter is strong right now is because he provides a way of farming other than just farming creeps. Like, he can get gold through track and Janata, and for his team as well. Most other heroes got nerfed when the creep bounty was reduced, but Bounty has never gotten gold from hitting creeps. It's always been through track, which is still the case, and the track gold remains unnerved. Other heroes have solved this creep gold reduction by this problem by going for Midases, but Bounty Hunter can fight into those Midases without building a Midas of his own, and outpace those heroes in terms of farm while doing it. This fact alone makes him an absolute monster in this meta. How you should play Bounty Hunter is, in general, pick him in a core role, pick up a stout shield, maybe even two because you're going to be tanking a lot of creeps, and then get a bunch of regen, and trade with people every time Janata is up, stealing gold from them and trading effectively in terms of damage as well. Build into phase boots, get level 6, and then start hunting. BH does not farm creeps, he farms heroes. You want to hunt relentlessly. Build into utility items such as Vlad's, Spirit Vessel, Crimson Guard, and so forth if you already have damage, and build into Abyssal Blade, Desolator, Sanjin Yasha if you want to be the damage dealer. How you counter Bounty Hunter is you pick heroes that have natural invis detection, such as Slardar or Zeus. Against a roaming BH, you can pick heroes that are very hard to roam on, such as a Dragon Knight or a Queen of Pain. Against a core BH, you want to pick heroes that can kill him in lane, such as Batrider or Sven. Bounty Hunter thrives in lanes where he's going to trade with you because he gets all the Janata gold and he will trade more effectively. Our overrated hero for this week is Sven. Sven was extremely good in the previous patch, and relative to how good he was, he's probably still decent, but that doesn't mean that he's not overrated, because the meta has certainly shifted away from heroes that Sven can easily deal with. The reason for this, probably because Ursa, Lifestealer, and Sven took this patch by storm initially, with the buffs to them attempting to solve their kiting issues. So what have captains been picking in competitive that deal with Sven so well? They've been picking both off and on meta counters to all of these heroes, and typically one counter to one of these heroes will counter all of them. Nyx's win rate, for example, is around 40% in MDL, which isn't bad, but it means that the hero is certainly not unpunishable, and everybody's ranting and raving about how Nyx is the best hero in Dota. Razors, Weavers, Pucks, Lycans, and so forth are all great heroes that are starting to get insta-picked as a counter to all of these kiteable heroes such as Sven, because captains will simply not allow these heroes, which are now strong, to have a free game, and this attitude will make its way into pubs soon enough. One of Sven's greatest strengths in the previous patch was not only was he an overwhelming core hero, but he was also an excellent support as well. This made him a really nice flex pick for when you weren't sure what the enemy team was going to draft. Due to the changes to his shield, the nerfs to his stun, and the nerf to the early levels in his cleave, this hurts Sven's ability to be useful at a low level, which subsequently hurts his supporting because supports are good because the low level abilities are good. So essentially what I'm saying is Sven is good, yes, but he's considered ubiquitously broken, and I don't think that that's the case anymore, and I would argue that his win rate in these recent LAN tournaments are beginning to reflect that, because he's nowhere near as overwhelming, and he's no longer a good flex pick. Our underrated hero for this week is Necrophos. Necrophos fell off in 7.20 when Death Pulse was changed, such that it no longer contained the component where you get health and mana regen for last hits and denies, and instead, this was added to Heartstopper. The reason this caused Necrophos to fall off is because it made him significantly more level dependent and therefore weaker in the laning stage. You wanted to get points in Death Pulse because it was your nuke and your heal, but you also wanted to get points in Heartstopper because it gives you the health and mana regen for spamming your Death Pulse and staying in lane. So if you leveled up Death Pulse, then you wouldn't have mana to spam it, and if you leveled up Heartstopper, then you wouldn't have anything to spam. And if you sacrificed your Ghost Shroud to level up both of those spells, then you wouldn't have any defense mechanism in the early game. So essentially, Necrophos just became far weaker in the early game, especially in side lanes where you straight up just don't get a lot of levels compared to the mid lane. But this is no longer a problem for Necrophos for a few main reasons. Reason number one, most games of Dota go late now. Everybody's building Midases, so Necrophos is guaranteed to get the levels that he desperately needs. Reason number two, Necrophos is strictly better in the late game than he was before. Death Pulse was buffed so that it does more damage, Ghost Shroud Slow was buffed, and the health and mana regen per stack of Heartstopper has also been buffed, so even if his early game was weak, which I don't think it is anymore, it's made up for by the fact that his late game is even more incredible than it was in the past. Reason number three, a 2-1-2 build was already very strong and probably underrated in the previous patch. The reason for this is because the second point in Heartstopper Aura gives you an extra 0.6% HP reduction as opposed to 0.5% in the first level, so it's a value point. And now, because of the changes to Heartstopper, it gives you enough mana regen to sustain your Death Pulse, which also does more damage at lower levels. So essentially, 2-1-2 is good, and it was already good. One final note on why I think Necro is great right now is because a lot of the counters to him are falling off or getting nerfed, such as Juggernaut or Pugna. So how you want to play Necrophos in the current patch is you start with a lot of regen and damage items, you level up Death Pulse for fighting and Heartstopper Aura for laning and harassing, you then want to max Heartstopper for farming or laning purposes, or max Death Pulse for fighting, and almost always get a value point in Ghost Shroud between levels 3 to 5. Then you want to fight with your Reaper Scythe, and farm and split push when you don't have it. Build into aura, healing, and utility items like Pipe, Holy Locket, and Yules if you have greedy heroes. Otherwise, you can build into a Midas Radiance if you can be the greedy hero. How to counter Necrophos, you can get regen reduction mechanics on your team like Spirit Vessel or Ancient Apparition, or pick heroes that do a lot of magical burst damage like Pugna or Zeus. So that's it for this video, but before you go, I know I say this every week, but please comment your feedback below. We've been getting really good feedback and putting it into the videos, and would love to continue to do that. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it, and I hope to see you in another video.